Everything's Jake is a labor of love that is now hitting movie screens and DVD shelves across the country after a long and hard-fought 7-year journey. As the film's title character, Mr. Hudson delivers a remarkable performance that Variety praises as consummately warm and satisfying. It is a great pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Ernie Hudson. Mr. Hudson, are you with us?
Yeah, I sure am. How you guys doing?
Great. Now, I'm struck by the journey that this film has taken, Everything's Jake, because it does seem like such a labor of love for all involved, and I think it's that love and dedication that's resulted in its release now, 7 years after making it.
Yeah, it's very interesting how films now, there was a time all you had to do was make a movie and you're pretty, sure of getting it out there, but now it's so much product. And we made this movie, every festival that, it was in competition, it came away with some kind of award. We won Santa Barbara, we won the Big Apple in New York, and a number of the festivals, and but the studios didn't get it, and it took a long time, and I'd pretty much given up on the movie, and then by accident, or someone at Warner Brothers saw the movie, and they decided to release it on DVD, and we premiered at a couple theaters on the East Coast just to qualify for the different awards, but finally the movie is getting a chance to get out there, and at least people will have a chance to see it. It's always played well with audiences, but you've got to, people have to have access to it. So
yeah, that's just it.
Right.
For the audience that might not know, could you tell us a little bit about what the film is about?
Yeah, it's a movie, and one of the reasons why I think it had difficulty finding a distributor. It's a movie about a man who happens to be homeless. Yeah. The studios thought, well, this is a homeless movie. It's not really about a homelessness. It's about a man who happens to be homeless, but it's really about friendship. And it's a guy who's been on the street most of his life, and another man is on the streets recently and is not going to survive very long. And so they form a friendship, and then it's about betrayal of that friendship and, all the things that sort of come out of it. I love the movie because there was something in the spirit of the character that really spoke to me, and I think it's a great American sort of story. It's a different kind of hero, in my opinion.
Yeah, and, you did. I did read an interview where you talked about how you're really caught by the character's core values and his heroism in a way. So,
yeah.
What are some of those qualities in that character that you found so appealing?
Well, I think as a society where we run a risk of getting so caught up with material, things, everybody talks about that, but and here's a man who makes a decision that he's not going to fall into that trap, and he's on the street by his choice. He looks at life as it is and says, okay, if this is what it is, let me accept that, and then let me be the one who decides what to do with my life.
Right.
And so there are a lot of people who are running around desperate, and they look at him as if he's somehow failed, but he's looking at them saying, but you're missing the whole point. It's life doesn't end when we lose our stuff. And I think that when we can look at our circumstances and still be true to who we are, to me that's very heroic. Yeah.
And he does form like you said, a relationship with a fellow, with a friend.
Yeah,
Cameron, I believe, is his
Cameron, and also I think that's part of his. He sees that as his role. There are a lot of people you'll see in the movie who he sort of takes under his wing. He looks out for. Phyllis Diller was kind enough to come and work on the movie, and she's wonderful in the film. But she plays an ex-chorus girl who sits outside the theater and is waiting to be called back, which of course will never happen, but really out of her mind. But he sort of, he looks after her. Lou Myers plays a character who's an alcoholic and, drug abuser, and he sort of, takes care of him. So he has his people that he sees that as his role, and I think he sees himself. He's stronger, but he's strong enough to make the choice.
Yeah, I know you say that the film transcends just a plot device of homelessness. But now, I know that this was probably a down and dirty kind of independent film. But how did you kind of immerse yourself in that world? Was there research involved for you?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and I had done some work with a number of rescue missions. The biggest one here, the Union Rescue Mission in Southern California. It's the largest and the oldest in the country. So I had some familiarity with with that situation, and I don't want to overplay that, but and when I decided to do the role, it was very important for me to spend a little time I had actually intended to spend a lot of time living on the street, but that was one of those ideas that lasts for about 6 or 7 hours.
Right.
There's got to be an easier way than this. I mean,
yeah.
We shot it in New York in December and January, and it's cold in New York. So
yes, it is.
But we did go to a lot of the shelters, and we met a lot of people. And there was one character who I really based a lot of the character on, who was a guy who's been out on the street for about 8 years, and when he talked about it, he just sort of lit up, and you realize that life goes on. Life still happens no matter what your circumstance. And and that was, to me, that was amazing. I mean, he talked about this place where you can go and get the best soup and then you go over here and they give clothes, and here you can wash your things, and he had a whole routine, his life, and he was pretty extraordinary. So. Because I think as an actor, it's a responsibility to bring the honesty to the movie. Now, one of the things that hurt the movie in some ways, because it wasn't a formula, there were things in the film. How do you go to the bathroom? I mean, how do you survive? Scene with prostitutes in the movie that a lot of Christians who want to like the movie, but when they see the scene with the prostitute, they're totally turned off by it.
Right.
So the usual way we're conditioned for violence, but we're not conditioned to a guy taking a dump.
Right.
So but we try to be, honest. How do you find food? I mean, how do you eat?
That's just it. And if you're doing it right,
you need to show that.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, you have a responsibility to keep up the authenticity of that life.
I think so. I think there's an integrity. And these guys, Matthew Mealy and Chris Fetchko, they wrote a great script. I thought it was a great character, and I really felt that what we do as actors and directors, we're storytellers.
Oh yeah.
And I think we, to bring truth, and that's what I find missing in so much of the product that comes out of Hollywood. There's something.
They sugarcoat it.
Yeah, they want it so much to make sure that it tries to make money that there's no truth there left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very hard to have truth when the bottom line is the bottom line.
Yeah, the bottom line, and then suddenly they have a character do something totally out of character, and I go, what was that about? And so this was two guys who were very, I think, potentially really good filmmakers, and so they didn't have all those sort of, preconceived ideas about what they could and couldn't do.
Yeah. The film's called Everything's Jake. It's out on DVD now, and it's screening, I believe, in various venues across the country as well. Right. But it is an independent film, and you've worked on independent films and big-budget films. Now, as an actor, does it affect the process, or is it all basically the same game?
Well, at some level, it's all about the work, which says, I guess, it's all basically the same game. The difference, though, is, when you do a movie like Ghostbusters, I mean, the per diem is great. There's plenty of money. You got a great, dressing room, trailer. Life is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You got a lot of toys. You know what I mean? You're well looked after, and all you have to do is, sort of show up and do your thing. And you're in an independent film, and you're shooting outside, and it's cold, and and there may not be any per diem, and certainly you're not making any money that's going to even pay your mortgage. It becomes a very, very different thing. So if you're going to make the sacrifice, you want to try to do it right.
Yeah. I've heard a couple of things about acting in an independent film as opposed to a big budget. Big budget, there seems to be a lot more. Your job is basically, you feel a lot of times like you're getting paid to wait.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and in an independent film, it allows for the more hurried pace. And the limited budget actually allows for more creativity because it's not something that you can throw money at.
Sure, yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, no, you got to get it done. When I signed up to do this movie with these guys, and they got the script to me, and then once you say yes, then I know that wherever they're lacking, I got to make up the difference.
Mm-hmm.
If whatever it takes, if we want to get a good cast, if I left it up to them, I don't know what we'd end up with, but, I called friends. I mean, Doug used to do the Cosby Show. I called Doug, and Stephen Purse, we did St. Elsewhere together.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie Allen, we did a movie called Women of San Quentin, and Debbie came, Robin Givens. I mean, and you want to make sure that...
Lou Rawls is in it, too, as well.
Yeah, Lou Rawls. I went to see Lou Rawls in New York, and he was performing there, and when the movie was over, we were talking, and he said, what's this movie about? And I told him the story, and he said, man, I want to be in it. So
cool.
He came down, and we created this scene where he was a hot dog vendor, and he wrote a song on the spot, so he sings in the movie. But everybody, it just shows up 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what, because there's no glamour there. I mean, it's like we got to get this, and we don't have all day to get it.
Yeah, I bet. I want to go through briefly some of your previous work, which is extraordinary. Some of the credits in your resume and what you've been able to accomplish. And I guess a great place to start would be Ghostbusters.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's still just so alive and thriving.
It's great.
20 years after it came out.
We're doing the game now. We're doing the Ghostbuster. They're doing this extraordinary cutting-edge technology for this new game that's coming out.
Yeah.
Danny Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, they're writing the script, and I'm not a big gamer, so I don't know a lot, but it's these, they're really going to make this something really extraordinary. All the cast is back. Bill Murray is doing it, so we're all back. And
the chat room is abuzz about this game, by the way.
Yeah, it's and of course, Danny was saying he wanted to do the third movie, but since we couldn't somehow pull that off, the game is going to be our attempt to say, okay, this is for the fans.
So the movie itself is kind of development hell, as I would say, I guess, right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure,
I'd be first in line.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think, I go all over the world, and I don't care where I am. If I'm on the street, somebody's going to yell, "Who are you going to call?" Without fail. I'm telling you, it's. So the movie is still there, and people introduce the movie to their kids, and so I get kids 3, 4 years old who, know the movie and know the characters. And
oh yeah,
great.
It's timeless.
Yeah, it really is. And I've heard that these video games, to work on these video games, to do the voice, it's a lot of fun actually. So it should be a fun process.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a great reunion because some of these guys. I saw Harold Ramis. I gave him an award at the Austin Film Festival about a year or so back, and I see Danny Aykroyd from time to time, but I haven't seen Bill Murray in a while, so it'd be great to get together with the guys. Now,
do you remember the first time you were kind of thrown in with that comedic trio?
Yeah. No, I remember meeting. I met Harold Ramis. We did a movie called Space Hunter that he was one of the writers on.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
A year before, and Ivan Reitman was the executive producer. But when this was a very, very different movie, and when I met the guys, all great guys, but all sort of in their sort of own worlds in a weird way, and I was sort of left to kind of bridge the space between all of them somehow.
Right.
But it was great. I really, I just have a lot of respect and a lot of love for them.
Another of your past films I want to ask you about was Weeds, and specifically working with Nick Nolte.
Well, it's funny because it sort of ties into Ghostbusters because I'd worked in movies about 8 years before Ghostbusters, and then Ghostbusters came out, and it was this phenomenon. And I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get another movie for almost 3 years. It was the strangest thing, but it was all over the place, and I was signing autographs at the supermarket, but I could not, and I'm not quite sure how to explain it. But how that gets to Weeds is I finally got an interview to go in for this movie, Weeds, and I just thought, you know what, I'm getting this job. And so I went in and met Nick Nolte. I had to sing a song at the interview that I actually ended up singing in the movie.
Right.
But I love Nick Nolte. He's a great guy. To me, he's one of those guys who really have this sort of star charisma.
He's a force of nature.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, he's Nick would look so, just burn out in the mornings, and then suddenly they turn, they say action, and all of a sudden this whole other being came through, and I would sit there in the scene and go, oh my God, this is, he lights up like a Christmas tree, and then suddenly it's cut, and then he's back to being burnt out again. But
oh wow,
that was extraordinary.
When did you realize that this is what you wanted to do? Because I thought I read that you started out as a writer, didn't you?
I started as a writer because I didn't somehow think being an actor was legitimate enough. It seemed like a lot of people were talking about, but I think writing was something, and I do like the idea of storytelling. I got my undergraduate work at Wayne State University. I got a scholarship to Yale in the playwriting program, and but I think I wanted to write, but I think I always loved acting. I think writing was somehow something I thought would just be more adult, responsible. But acting was something that it was just fun to do, and I think the reason I'm still doing it is because it's always been fun.
Yeah. Can you articulate what kind of urge it satisfies in you, acting? Because I find that actors, there's no two ways about it. They have to act.
Yeah, I think it's a calling. I really do. I think it's a calling. I said we are storytellers. In tribal societies, the stories are how we define ourselves, how we find our place in society. I think that it's still the case, and I think we do that through movies. We watch how the guy gets the girl. We learn about ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's something about needing to act. This is what I do, and you work for. All these years I'm still trying to get it right, and then of course you bring a lot to it, but then getting the chance to do that, it gets harder and harder, which gets me back to the writing, because now I'm realizing that there's certain stories that if I want told, I have to create that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, acting is. I love the idea of all the possibilities that I could have been. There's some part of me that could have been homeless. I've never been homeless, but there's some part of me that could have been all these various sides of me. Mm-hmm. that I find fascinating. All the many different things that we do, and yet there's always that belief that I've always had that on some level we're all tied into the same mind.
Yeah.
So in essence, we're all pretty much, the same. We're all, we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somehow these various characters kind of reflect that.
Yeah. With all the experience and all the extraordinary people that you've worked with and these projects, is there a single most important piece of advice or lesson that you've learned about the craft of what it is you do?
Well, I think the people who I sort of admire the most, I've worked with, there's a sort of down-to-earth understanding that it's just a job. And even though sometimes in society they take it a little more serious, you can't, take it that way or make more out of it than it actually is. It's, this is what I do. Somebody else is a plumber,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a gig. It does not make you any more special than anyone else. You do the best work you can, and then that's that. You're not entitled to any special favors because of it or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that audiences respond to that too. They know when your aims are true. They sense it.
They sense genuine.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think there's I love what we do, but it's I think sometimes people feel that they have some kind of special entitlement because of it. And
Right.
I don't sort of buy into that. And like I said, the real people. I remember doing Fantasy Island years ago, the television series, and
mm-hmm.
And they had a bunch of names. You always have the special celebrities on, and I felt a little awkward, so I kind of went to my trailer, and I was there. And then Ricardo Montalban, he knocked on the door, and he says, "I'm Ricardo," and he invited me out. He introduced me, and he says, "Welcome to Fantasy Island." He was just so gracious. He's the only actor I've ever written a thank you note because he was just so generous and kind. And I thought, I always want to be able to do that when I'm working, because it doesn't take much, but it really makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about Everything's Jake, but you have before you leave, I want to talk about some of these other films, if you could mention them briefly, about some of your upcoming films you have.
Sure, yeah. There's a number of things. One thing is not a film, actually. It's a CD that's come out called. I'm going blank on it. It's my wife's in the other room. We're always sort of filling. It's I think it's called The Word of Faith. Anyway, me, Stacy Keach, Jim Caviezel, Lou Goss. What is it thing called? Is it Word of Promise? Word of Promise. Okay. My wife, she feels those missing spots in.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's a great cast, and it's the King James version of the New Testament. So it just came out, and so that's kind of cool. It's fun to do.
Oh goodness! Wow.
But there's a movie called Nobel's Son that played at Tribeca. It's going to screen in Sundance, and it's being released March 20th with Alan Rickman and Bill Pullman, Murray Steenburgen.
Wow.
Oh, and Nobel's Son, is that what you said?
Nobel's Son, yeah, and it's a really fun movie. So that's coming. They have a release date for that. There's a movie called All Hat that I shot a year ago in Toronto. Played at the Toronto Film Festival with Keith Carradine, Rachel Lee Cook, Lou Kirby, and it's a really cool movie about the horse racing community up around Toronto, sort of a modern-day Western. So that's, I think they're trying to get a release somewhere around spring. There's one called Lonely Street with Jay Moore and Joy Montaigne.
Yes.
And a bunch of other guys. And it's, I haven't seen it yet, but it should be coming out soon, I would hope. But it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, but you stay busy.
You gotta stay busy. At a certain point, you gotta, also, I think it's good to be active. It's just good to keep doing what we do.
Yeah.
So, I've been very blessed.